Over the course of this series of videos, I've covered the human story of various colors, the passion and rage of red, the purity of white, the tranquility of blue, and the despair of black. But what about gray? Gray is quite possibly the most overlooked, least thought of color. Some consider it to be so boring that can be hardly considered to be a color. It's debatable as to whether or not gray is a true color, as it has no chroma or saturation, which describes the intensity of a color. It doesn't even have a hue, but rather is just found in the form of shades. Instead of dashes of gray, we just have shades of gray. Public opinion shows that gray is usually considered to be the second or third least favorite color, usually only topped by brown, or bottom by brown, I should say. And it's easy to win a competition against the color of shit. Early man saw gray in the skies of clouds bringing in rain, as well as the ashes of their fires. How dull those gray clouds looked in comparison to the bright blue skies. How unimpressive the gray ashes after the bursts of red flames. While gray clouds in the modern context usually exhibit the pessimism of rainy days, this was probably not the case for early hunter-gatherers as well as early farmers who relied on water, particularly on the dry African savanna. Gray is also the color of various metals, namely iron, the metal that not only flows through our red blood through hemoglobin, but also was the metal that transformed the material world more than any other. With higher and higher smithing temperatures, the fiery allures of red and orange would cool down into gray. Early miners also found silver, a shiny gray metal that, unlike other forms of gray, was by and large coveted for its beauty. There is an evolutionary explanation for this that is quite convincing, although not ironclad, to add a terrible pun in there. See, it's possible that early humans, quasi-apes on the African savanna, sought water. Not only from gray clouds, but the objects the rain poured on. And wet objects look shiny, as they oftentimes reflect white light, and as a result, shiny things look pretty. After all, we want water. A gray rock or metal that is wet looks shiny, and therefore is beautiful. Silver doesn't need to be wet to be shiny, and therefore is beautiful in and of itself despite being gray, if you could call it that, turning one of the lamest colors into one of the coolest. While it is common to rag on gray for being dull, the fact that many metals are gray has led to gray being associated with technological advancements and even the cerebral. The bulk of our central nervous system is composed of what is called gray matter. The gray matter contains the majority of our brain's neural cells. The reason why you understand anything that I am saying right now is due to the aforementioned gray matter between your ears. In universities, NGOs, and government bureaucracies, there is a term called gray literature, used to refer to technical papers, evaluations, and other paperwork that is extremely important yet so boring that the only people who read it are paid to do so. Cultural contexts change from location to location, but one universal aspect of the human condition is aging. We all start dying the day we are born. Life after sexual maturity is a long, slow march into the black darkness. But on the way there is a lot of gray. As we age, the pigment melanin found in each of our hair follicles reduces over time, depending on age, genetics, environment, and lifestyle. This turns our hair gray eventually, and then white. Some people will even see a few silver strands as young as during their 20s. Most people will see a significant amount of gray hair by their 50s, creating a gray scale of salt and pepper, an aesthetic before being completely white. For this reason, gray has been seen almost universally as the color of non-color senescence, perhaps even the color of the senile. Gray's status as the intermediary between black and white has led many human cultures to see it as the color of apathy, neutrality, agnosticism, and just all-around boringness. Forever in the shadows, literally being the color of shadows. There is a term called shades of gray, And no, I'm not referring to the novel series for horny suburban winettes. What I'm talking about is a term that refers to nuance. The term black and white thinking is used to refer to people who think in terms of binaries, good versus evil, this side versus that side. But the color gray, in its existence, as boring as it is, spits in the face of these simplistic binaries. It represents the complexity of various shades that manifest. Even look at debates about politics, economics, social issues. Sometimes one side is right and the other side is completely wrong, but in most cases, there are elements of nuance in which there are valid points on both sides. The shades of gray that blur the lines between light and dark, good and evil, white and black, are almost always manifest. Who would guess that a selection choice on your printer settings would exemplify a greater underlying truth? Gray also is the color of uncertainty and agnosticism. Uncertainty is in many ways the most humble and most honest way of looking at the world, one in which the truth is asserted through dispassionate indifference. So while it is easy to pass off gray as a color of boredom, let us appreciate what it symbolizes: the humility of what we do not know and the uncertainty of the human condition. Thanks for watching.